accidentally overheard my husband's secret call, and discovered his gold-digging plan. I came home earlier than planned from my girls' trip to surprise my husband. I walked in and heard him talking on the phone upstairs. "Marriage is a complete nightmare, bro," he said. "I wake up every day regretting my decision. If it wasn't for her family's money, I'd be gone already." We had just celebrated our 3-year anniversary. I quietly left the house and came back at my regular time, greeting him with a kiss. 5 days later, he called me 27 times in 1 hour because he finally figured out what I did. Man, I don't even know where to start with all this. My hands are literally shaking as I tap this out on my phone. I've written and then deleted this post like 7 times already. Everyone else in the house is asleep. And I'm just sitting here in the bathroom with the shower running so Nathan doesn't hear me crying. Nathan and I have been married for 3 years now. He always seemed so real, you know, compared to the other guys I usually met through my family's social scene. My family has money, not like super rich. But we're comfortable enough that I've never had to stress about bills. Nathan comes from a regular middle-class background. We even renewed our vows last weekend. It was a small thing, just our closest friends and family there. He actually cried when he read his vows to me. Seriously. Y'all. He cried. He told me I was the best thing that ever happened to him. Anyway, I was on a girls' trip to Nashville with my 3 best friends from college. We'd been planning it for months. We had all these fun things lined up. Spa days. Wine tours. Checking out that new rooftop bar everyone's been posting about on TikTok. But on the second day, Zoe got really bad food poisoning from this sketchy hot chicken place. And Ella had some emergency she had to handle for work remotely. The trip was kind of falling apart. So we decided to just head home early. I thought, hey, this is the perfect chance to surprise Nathan. He's always saying how much he misses me when I'm away. Always sending me those "wish you were here" selfies from our couch with his sad puppy eyes. So, I grabbed an early flight back. On the way home, I stopped to pick up his favorite nachos from this little hole-in-the-wall spot near our place and some craft beer he's been really into lately. I was so excited to see his face light up when he saw me. I came in through the garage using my code, hoping to really catch him off guard. Our house has this weird layout where you can't see into the living room from the front door. I could hear him talking upstairs in his gaming room. He was clearly on the phone since I didn't hear anyone else. So, I set the food down in the kitchen and quietly made my way up the stairs, thinking I'd surprise him mid-conversation. And then I heard it. "Marriage is a complete nightmare, bro. I wake up every day regretting my decision." I froze right there on the stairs. My heart literally stopped. I thought maybe he was just joking around with one of his friends. So I waited for him to laugh. But he didn't laugh. If it wasn't for her family's money, I'd be gone already. The only good thing about this whole situation is that I don't have to worry about rent or bills anymore. I could literally feel my heart splitting in half as I stood there. The vow renewal thing last weekend, pure torture. Man. I had to stand there making up all this romantic stuff while her family looked on all teary-eyed. I've gotten pretty good at the performance though. Oscar-worthy. He chuckled, then actually laughed. But hey, small price to pay for the lifestyle, right? Her dad's talking about bringing me into the family business next year. Once I'm set up there, I'll have choices. More choices than just being the money wife's husband. The money wife. That's what he calls me when I'm not around. 3 years of marriage. And I'm just the money wife to him. I don't know how I managed it. But I quietly went back downstairs, grabbed the food and beer, and slipped out of the house. I sat in my car in the parking lot for almost 2 hours, just bawling my eyes out. My mascara was all over the place. And this old lady actually knocked on my window to ask if I needed help. I told her my dog died. Which was the first of many lies I'd tell that day. I returned the food to the restaurant, telling them my husband wasn't feeling well. Then I texted my friends, saying I decided to go to a hotel near the airport so I could catch up on some emails before flying back to Nashville the next day. I drove around for hours, just trying to figure out what to do. Every memory of our relationship was playing back in my head with this new, terrible filter. All those times he insisted on paying for dinner, but only when it was somewhere cheap. How he was so reluctant to let me help with his student loans until I practically forced him. How he always seemed to have these big dreams but never quite enough push to go after them until my dad offered connections. Our anniversary gift from his parents was this engraved wooden sign for our entryway that says, "Where your story begins." I literally stared at it this morning while drinking coffee, thinking our story was just beginning its next chapter. But it turns out our story was actually just a business deal for Nathan. I decided to go back to Nashville. I spent the next 3 days pretending everything was fine with my girlfriends. Even though I was dying inside and probably drank way too much wine every night. Then I came home at my originally scheduled time. And I greeted him with a kiss. I looked into the eyes of the man who called our marriage a nightmare and kissed him hello, like nothing was wrong. I've been living this fake life for 5 days now. 5 days of sleeping next to someone who apparently regrets waking up next to me every morning. 5 days of picking apart every conversation we've ever had, wondering what was real and what was part of his Oscar-worthy act. I've been checking our bank accounts. Turns out Nathan has been making these weird withdrawals. Nothing huge. But like $200 here. $300 there. Always just under the amount we agreed. Would need a conversation. Where is that money going? Has he been saving up for his eventual escape? Does he have someone else? Oh, God. Does he have someone else? Is there another woman who knows I'm just the money wife to him? Do they laugh about me together? I haven't told anyone yet. Not my friends. And definitely not my family. My dad adores Nathan. Always talking about how he's like the son he never had. It would break his heart to know Nathan only sees him as a meal ticket. I've been making subtle changes, though. Yesterday, I accidentally left open a browser tab with my separate bank account information, the one he doesn't have access to. This morning, I mentioned that my dad is actually rethinking some of his business plans due to the economy. I've been working late. Being just a little less loving, taking more calls in private. The bathroom sink has been leaking for weeks, and Nathan kept saying he'd fix it this weekend. Last night, I just called a plumber without telling him. When the guy showed up, Nathan looked so confused. I just shrugged and said, "You seemed busy with other things." The plumber charged us $85 for a 10-minute fix. And I could see Nathan mentally calculating that money being wasted. And my plan is working. Nathan is getting nervous. This afternoon, while I was out running errands, he called me 27 times in 1 hour. 27 times. When I finally called him back, he was practically frantic, asking if everything was okay, if I was mad at him, if something happened with my family. I played it cool. He said my phone was in my purse while I was at Target. Said everything was fine. And asked why he would think otherwise. The silence on his end was super loud. So now I'm here. Typing this out while locked in the bathroom with the shower running. Just trying to figure out my next move. I know I have to confront him, but I also need to be smart about how I do it. We have joint bank accounts, which was a huge mistake on my part. My name is on the mortgage, but his name is on the deed to the house. Everything is totally tangled up. I'm trying to come up with a solid plan. A part of me just wants to scream everything I heard right in his face. But another part wants to be more strategic. What if I slowly pull away emotionally while I get all my financial stuff sorted out? What if I write down everything that's happening, like a journal? What if I let him think everything is cool until, suddenly, it's really not cool for him anymore? I think that's actually what I'm going to do. He spent 3 years lying to my face. Maybe I can handle a few weeks of doing the same. I gotta go now. The hot water is probably running out, and Nathan will start wondering why I've been in the shower for 45 minutes. I'm going to go out there, kiss my husband goodnight, and lie right next to him while I plan my escape. Edit. Nathan just texted me, asking if I want to go away for the weekend to reconnect. The nerve of this man, for real. I'll update y'all when I can. First update. First off, thanks so much for all the amazing support on my last post. I read every single comment, and seriously, y'all gave me the strength to get through these past 2 weeks without totally losing it. Sorry for taking so long to update. I've been extra careful about what I do online because Nathan has suddenly started this weird thing where he's always trying to peek at my phone whenever it's around. So, it's been 14 days since I heard my husband of 3 years tell his friend that our marriage is a total nightmare and I'm just his way to get rich. 14 days of sleeping next to someone who, turns out, hates waking up next to me every day. 14 days of putting on the most tiring act of my whole life. The day after my last post, I decided I needed to be super organized about this whole mess. No freaking out. No yelling at him until I had all my ducks in a row. I made a list. 'Cause I'm a big list maker when I'm stressed. Here's what was on it. Get my money sorted out. Collect proof of what he's really like, not for court, just for when my family starts asking questions. Figure out how deep his lies actually go. Plan how I'm gonna leave. Get some friends to lean on. But without telling them everything just yet. The first thing I did was call my own bank, the account he can't get into. I beefed up all my security, changed every password, added those secret questions they ask. and made sure they knew not to talk about my account with anyone but me. Then, I started slowly shifting money from our shared accounts into my personal one. Nothing crazy. Just enough each day so it wouldn't set off any alarms right away. Is that wrong? Maybe. But, you know, finding out your husband is a lying gold digger kind of changes how you see fairness. The weekend trip Nathan suggested to reconnect. I said yes. But then I said we should go to this old school cabin my family owns by the lake instead of the fancy resort he was thinking of. The look on his face. Y'all? It was something. He quickly got it together and said, "Whatever makes you happy, babe." But I totally saw that flicker of disappointment. Now, everything is suddenly clicking. It's clear how he always pushes for the pricey stuff when he knows my family might pay. But then he gets all cheap when it's coming out of our own money. That cabin trip actually showed me a lot more than I thought it would. Our Wi-Fi barely works out there. And Nathan spent pretty much the whole weekend glued to his phone, griping about the bad signal. He kept walking down to the end of the dock where you sometimes get just one bar. At one point, I followed him without him knowing, and heard him telling someone he was going nuts, being stuck in the boonies and that he'd make it up to them when he got back. Who was he even talking to? And what exactly did he need to make up to them? When we got home Sunday night, he immediately said he needed to run to Walmart for some work stuff for tomorrow. He was gone for over 2 hours for Walmart, which is only 12 minutes from our place. Later, when I checked our shared credit card app, there was no charge from Walmart, but there was a $60 charge from a bar on the other side of town. During the trip, I accidentally let slip that my dad was thinking about retiring early because of some health problems, totally made up, by the way, and might slow down some of his business stuff. Nathan then spent the next hour asking super detailed questions about Dad's plans, the family money, and our future. He barely said a peep about Dad's fake health issues. It was like watching someone take off their mask without even realizing they were doing it. I've also been looking through our past money records, and what I found made me sick to my stomach. Over the last 3 years, Nathan has taken almost $17,000 from our joint accounts for what he called business expenses and investments. That money never came back. And he can't even explain where it went. There's a pattern of him taking out big chunks of cash right before he goes to his hometown, which makes me think he's been supporting someone or something there that I have no clue about. Last week, I went through his nightstand while he was at the gym. I never thought I'd do something like that, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Inside, I found a second phone. One of those cheap burner phones from Target. It had a password, but he'd written the code on a sticky note stuck to the back. Typical Nathan. Always forgetting his passwords. The phone only had one contact saved. D. There were tons of texts setting up meetings and talking about money. Some mentioned the long-term plan and sticking to it. One from 3 months ago literally said, "Just 2 more years and we're good." 2 more years until what? I snapped pictures of everything with my phone before carefully putting his back exactly how I found it. The mind games are the weirdest part of all this. I've been changing how I act just a little, being a bit less touchy-feely. Taking more calls when I'm alone, casually bringing up talks I've had with our family lawyer. Nothing meant to start a fight. Just different. And Nathan is totally losing it. 2 nights ago, he actually went through my closet while I was in the shower. I only know because he left my boots in a different spot than I keep them. Yeah. I'm one of those people who arranges her shoes perfectly. When I came out and saw it, I didn't say anything. I just rearranged them while he watched from the bed, pretending to be on his phone. Yesterday, I caught him scrolling through my iPad's search history while I was making dinner. I deliberately left searches like signs your husband is cheating and separate bank accounts in marriage for him to find. When I walked in, he practically chucked the iPad onto the couch and started rambling about how much he loved the lasagna I was making, even though I was clearly making stir-fry. Our fridge has been making this weird clicking sound for months, and Nathan always said he'd fix it. Yesterday, I casually brought up maybe we should just buy a new one. And he immediately got into fix-it mode. Spending 2 hours messing with it. Suddenly, all those chores he's been putting off for ages are getting done. The bathroom door that's been squeaking since last Christmas. Fixed. The broken porch light. Replaced. The wobbly kitchen table. Steady again. It's like watching someone desperately trying to show they're worth something. I've started having lunch with Arya once a week. She's been my best friend since college, and she's the only one I've told about all this. She was shocked at first, then super mad for me, and now she's my partner in crime and my go-to person to talk things through. She helped me set up a new email account that Nathan doesn't know about, and told me to start writing down everything. Last Wednesday, I was supposed to be working late at a client meeting, honestly. I was actually just sitting at a Starbucks, scrolling through Reddit's surviving infidelity page and taking notes, when Nathan showed up out of nowhere with dinner. He's never done that in our 3 years of marriage. He said he was just missing me. But he spent the whole dinner grilling me about a call he overheard me having with Arya where I'd said something about making big changes. That call was actually about maybe redoing our guest bedroom, but he doesn't need to know that. Then came the 27 calls I talked about in my last post. Now I get why he did it. That morning, I'd left some printouts from our joint bank account on my desk, showing all his big withdrawals over the past year. I hadn't said anything to him about them, just left them there. When I got home that evening, the papers were moved. He'd seen them. Freaked out. And that's why he blew up my phone while I was in meetings. When I finally called him back after the 27th call, our talk went like this. Me. Hey. What's the big emergency? My phone was on my desk during meetings. Nathan. Breathing hard. No emergency. Just. Is everything okay with you? With us? You've been acting different since you got back from Nashville. Me. Different how? Nathan. I don't know. Just distant. And you've been taking a lot of calls in private. Plus, you mentioned something about your dad rethinking his business plans. I'm worried about you. See how he snuck in worry about my dad's business right after pretending to care about me? Classic Nathan move that I never saw before. Me. Everything's fine. Just swamped with work. Why would anything be wrong? The silence on his end was so long. I actually thought the call had dropped. Nathan. No reason. I just love you. That's all. Me. I love you too. That was the biggest lie I've ever told. After we hung up, I just sat in my car and cried for almost an hour. Not 'cause I'm sad, the marriage is over. But because I'm grieving the relationship I thought was real. The Nathan I fell for isn't even a real person. He's just a role played by a guy who sees me as nothing more than a walking bank account. Last night, he brought up having another vow renewal ceremony for our parents who missed the first one. When I asked why the sudden rush to renew vows again, we just did it 2 weeks ago. He mumbled something about celebrating our love with everyone important to us. What that really means. He's freaking out that his free ride is ending, and he wants to lock in his spot with my family. I just smiled and said, maybe next year. You could practically see the relief on his face. What he doesn't know is that I've already talked to a lawyer. Not our family lawyer, but someone Arya suggested who's not in our social scene. I have a meeting next week to go over my choices. I've written down all the weird money stuff. I've also secured my most important personal papers and those priceless family things by taking them to my friend's house for a photo shoot for her Instagram. Another lie. But hey. I'm learning from the best, right? The craziest thing happened this morning, though. I was getting ready for work, and Nathan came up behind me in the bathroom, hugged me, and started crying. Like, actually crying. He said he felt like he was losing me and had no idea why. For just a second, I almost lost it and confronted him right then and there. But then I remembered what I overheard. Remembered him laughing about his Oscar-worthy performance. And I just patted his arm and told him everything was fine. Just busy with work. His tears dried up super fast when I mentioned I might have to push back our trip to New York next month. The one where we were supposed to stay in that fancy 5-star hotel. His Instagram influencer buddy recommended. Funny how his big emotional breakdown disappeared the second I said a luxury trip might not happen. The big confrontation is coming. I'm almost sad. But I want him to sweat a bit more. To feel like the rug's being pulled out from under him without knowing why. I want him to feel just a tiny bit of the uncertainty and betrayal I've been living with. Is that petty? Yeah, maybe. But when someone totally wrecks your whole world, I think you get to be a little petty. Edit. For those asking if we have kids, thankfully no. Nathan always had just one more thing he wanted to get done before we started a family. I realize now that one more thing was basically setting himself up to leave me with half my stuff. Edit 2. Nathan just texted, asking if we can have dinner at my parents' house this weekend. Says he misses them. Yeah. I bet he does. Second update. Hey y'all. It's been about a month since I last updated. And so much has gone down. First off, thanks so much for all your support and advice. I've read every single comment, even the ones wondering if I was doing things right. Trust me. I've questioned myself every step of the way too. So, where we left off. After finding out Nathan had been secretly taking money from our accounts and was only with me for my family's connections, I spent weeks quietly getting information and planning how to leave. I was gonna confront him once I had everything totally lined up. But life, you know, Had other ideas. Remember that dinner at my parents' place that Nathan was so keen on? We went last weekend. And wow! It really opened my eyes. Nathan was in total charm mode. He was telling my mom her new curtains looked great. Asking my dad all kinds of detailed questions about his golf. And even offered to help my sister set up her new Sonos speaker system. Anyone looking would have thought he was the perfect son-in-law. But now that I knew what to actually look for, I could see how he was calculating every single move. During dinner, Nathan just casually brought up that he'd been looking into investment properties in my parents' neighborhood. My dad, bless his heart, immediately started talking about how property values in their area were expected to jump 20% in the next 5 years. Nathan's eyes literally lit up. No joke. It was like watching a slot machine hit the jackpot. That night after we got home, I caught him on our iPad checking out properties way out of our league. When I asked how on earth we could afford them, he just smiled and said my dad had supposedly mentioned helping with the down payment. My dad had not said anything like that at all. The next morning, I had my meeting with the lawyer Arya told me about. She was awesome. Super direct. Really supportive. And she didn't miss a thing. She helped me understand exactly what I was due and what Nathan might try to go after. The good news, our prenup does offer a bit of protection, though not as much as I'd really want. The even better news. The money investigation showed a clear pattern of lies that could possibly make parts of the prenup worthless. While I was with the lawyer, Nathan was apparently having a full-blown meltdown back home. I'd left my laptop open that morning with a web page showing flights to my cousins in California that was part of my plan to leave. You know. When I got home, Nathan had made this super fancy dinner with all my favorites. Wine. Candles. The whole 9 yards. He was trying so hard to be charming, but there was this really desperate vibe about everything he did. His hands were literally shaking when he poured the wine. During dinner, he kept making these weird comments about how much he loves our life. How thankful he is for me, and not my family. Just me, and how he's never been happier. It was like watching someone act in a play, but they hadn't quite memorized all their lines yet. Then came the shocker. He suggested we start trying for a baby. Like, right now. This. From the guy who spent 3 years coming up with excuses to put off having kids. I almost choked on my wine. I asked why the sudden change of mind. Nathan gave me this whole speech about finally getting what's really important in life, and how he's ready for the next big step for us. He actually got teary-eyed. Y'all. Oscar-worthy, for sure. I smiled and said, funny you should say that, because I've been doing some thinking about our future too. The hope that quickly showed on his face was almost sad to see. I kept going. Actually, I've been thinking a lot about our relationship since I got back from Nashville. That hope disappeared, replaced by something more like total panic. He reached for his wine glass so fast he almost knocked it right over. He asked, what kind of thoughts? That's when I decided to start showing my hand a little. Not all my cards, but enough to make him uncomfortable. I said I'd been thinking about being honest in marriage, about what people truly want versus what they claim to want. Nathan's face turned so white I thought he might actually faint. He asked what I was getting at. Instead of answering straight up, I asked if he remembered what he said in his vows at our renewal ceremony. About how meeting me was the best thing that ever happened to him. He nodded, trying to smile, but it looked more like he was in pain. I asked if he truly meant it. Of course I did, he said, reaching for my hand across the table. I meant every single word. I slowly pulled my hand away. That's interesting. Because I could have sworn I heard you tell Nolan that the vow renewal was pure torture, and that you had to make up romantic stuff while my family looked on. All the color drained from his face entirely. His mouth opened and closed a few times, but nothing came out. When he finally tried to talk, I kept going. Or maybe I misheard. Maybe you didn't call our marriage a nightmare and say you wake up regretting your decision every single day. Maybe I just imagined the part where you said the only good thing about our relationship is my family's money. Nathan knocked over his wine glass right then, spilling red wine all over our white tablecloth. He didn't even try to clean it. He just stared at me with this look of pure horror. When he asked when I heard it, I told him. When I came home early from Nashville to surprise you. Surprise? Babe. You totally misunderstood, he began, his voice getting that calm, soothing tone he uses when he thinks I'm being too emotional. I was just letting off steam to Nolan about a tough time. Everyone says stuff they don't mean when they're annoyed. A tough time? I repeated. Interesting. So, which part was the misunderstanding? The part where you called me the money wife, or the part where you said you're only staying until you're settled enough to have other choices? His face went from pale to looking really sick. He clearly hadn't known just how much I'd actually heard. He mumbled that it was taken totally out of context. Then please, Nathan, explain the situation where telling your friend, our marriage is a nightmare, and you're only with me for money makes any sense at all. He couldn't. Obviously. Instead, he changed his game, going from denying everything to a teary apology in seconds flat. He claimed he'd been having a personal crisis when I overheard him, that he didn't mean any of it, that he loved me more than anything in the world. I just sat there, watching his act with fresh eyes. All the stuff I used to think was real, his soft looks, his honest declarations. Those vulnerable moments now just looked like carefully planned steps in a long scam. Are you dumping me? He finally asked. I haven't decided yet. I lied. Of course I had decided. But he didn't need to know that just yet. What came next was 2 weeks of the most draining emotional manipulation I've ever had to deal with. Nathan pulled out all the stops. Man. He sent flowers to my office every single day with notes that got more and more desperate. He called my parents, saying he was worried about my sudden change in attitude. He even suggested couples therapy, which is pretty rich, coming from someone who thought our marriage was a nightmare. He even reached out to Arya, trying to get her to talk some sense into me. The most telling thing, while he was trying to save our marriage, he never once brought up my family's money situation. It was like he was deliberately dodging the very thing that had been his whole motivation from the start. Meanwhile, I kept putting my plan into action. I moved the rest of the money from our shared accounts into my safe personal accounts. I talked with my family's money guy to make sure Nathan couldn't touch any family assets. I packed essentials and irreplaceable things and moved them to a storage unit Nathan has no idea about. I also had a private talk with my parents, and that was one of the toughest things I've ever had to do. My dad has always seen Nathan as the son he never had, and my mom just loved him for supposedly making me happy. Telling them that their favorite son-in-law was a fake who only wanted their money and connections almost completely crushed them. Dad wanted to go confront Nathan right away, but I got them to agree to follow my lead for just a little bit more. The dishwasher conked out 3 days ago, perfect timing, right? Nathan immediately offered to call someone to fix it. Which was weird cause he usually gripes about repair costs. I said we should just get a new one, and he agreed without even asking how much it cost. He's clearly trying super hard to act like he doesn't care about money anymore. Last night, we went to a dinner party at my friend Zoe's new place. Nathan has always thought Zoe was a bit much one, his exact words, with her loud personality and saying whatever she thinks. But last night, he was practically hanging on her every word, laughing at all her jokes, and even complimenting her TikTok dance videos that he used to call embarrassing for her age. Halfway through dinner, Zoe's boyfriend Arthur, who has no idea about my situation, just casually brought up a news story about some guy who had scammed his rich wife for years. Everyone laughed about what an idiot the guy was to think he could pull that off. Everyone except Nathan, who suddenly got super interested in his mashed potatoes. When Arthur asked him what he thought about the story, Nathan mumbled something about not all relationships being what they seem on the outside. The table got quiet. I could feel Zoe looking at me, totally confused by the sudden weird vibe. I just smiled and asked her to pass the salt. On the drive home, Nathan was oddly quiet. When we pulled into our garage, he turned to me with this desperate look and asked if everything was really all right between us. I told him I wasn't sure what he meant. He said things had felt off for weeks, and he couldn't shake this feeling that something was seriously wrong. I looked him straight in the eyes and said, maybe you should check your conscience if you're feeling like something's wrong. He flinched like I had slapped him. This morning, I caught him looking through our wedding album, something he hasn't touched in years. He claimed he was just feeling sentimental, but the panic in his eyes told a whole other story. He's trying to find hints about how much I know and what I'm going to do. I've set up a meeting with my parents and our family's money guy for tomorrow. Nathan thinks it's just about some usual trust stuff, but it's actually to officially take him off as a beneficiary from several accounts and to talk about what our divorce will mean. I've already told my parents to act completely normal until after the meeting. I'm not even mad anymore. I'm just tired, you know. Tired of the act. Tired of watching him trip over himself trying to keep up his fake front. Tired of pretending I don't know our whole marriage has just been a business deal for him. Tonight, Nathan suggested we go on a second honeymoon to try and reconnect. He showed me pictures of this crazy expensive resort in Bali on his phone, going on about infinity pools and private beaches. The old me would have been stoked. The new me just wondered how much of my family's cash he was planning to blow on this last-ditch attempt. I smiled and told him it sounded nice, but maybe we should talk about it after the meeting with my parents tomorrow. The relief on his face was instant. He clearly thinks he's still got time to fix whatever mess he made. He doesn't realize that by this time tomorrow, his whole carefully built world is gonna be in shatters. The meeting with my parents and the financial advisor is set for 10 o'clock in the morning. By 11 o'clock, he'll know that I've known everything for weeks. By noon, he'll be staring at the truth. That the gravy train has not only stopped, but it's going backwards full speed. Edit. Nathan just texted, asking if I want sushi for dinner tonight. Says he wants to treat me to something special before our big money meeting tomorrow. If he only knew. Man. Last update. Hey everyone. First off, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you who stuck by me through this whole mess. Your messages and advice really helped me find the strength to keep going. Especially on those days when I felt like I was totally drowning. I said I'd give one last update when everything was finally sorted. And this is it. The end of my story. So, that meeting with my parents and our financial guy? It went exactly how I planned. And honestly, seeing Nathan's face when he figured out what was happening, I'll remember that look forever. We all sat down in my dad's office at home. Me, Nathan, my folks, and Mr. Bradshaw, who's been our family's financial advisor since I was little. Nathan was all smiles, probably thinking this was his big chance to really lock in his spot with the family money. Dad started by asking Nathan if he had anything he wanted to get off his chest before we got started. Nathan looked a bit confused but said nope, everything was totally fine. Dad nodded. Then pulled out a folder. Inside were printouts of Nathan's secret withdrawals from our shared bank account. Screenshots of text messages to Dee about the long-term plan. And the real kicker? A written copy of that phone call I'd overheard, where he called our marriage a nightmare. You guys should have seen Nathan's face. It was like watching his entire world just crumble, slowly. He went from confused to shocked, then panicked. Then started trying to figure things out, all in about 10 seconds flat. He immediately tried to say it was all a big misunderstanding. That he'd been having a tough time and just said stuff he didn't really mean. Mom, who had been simmering with anger ever since I told her everything, finally just lost her cool. She called him a gold-digging jerk and said she'd never been so wrong about someone. Nathan actually tried to get her on his side, saying they always had this special connection and that she knew the real him. Mom just laughed right in his face and asked which version was the real him, the one who called his marriage a nightmare, or the one who teared up at our vow renewal. The meeting finished with Mr. Bradshaw explaining that Nathan was officially cut off from all family accounts, trusts, and business stuff. Dad told him that divorce papers would be sent to him that afternoon and that he had 24 hours to get his personal stuff out of our house. Nathan's last move was to turn to me, eyes filled with tears, real tears. The guy deserves an award. And ask if I was really going to ditch 3 years of marriage over just one dumb conversation. I looked him dead in the eyes and told him I wasn't throwing anything away. He had already done that when he decided I was just a way for him to get money. The actual divorce was surprisingly fast. Turns out, when one person has tons of proof that the other married them for all the wrong reasons, and that person has the money for good lawyers, things can move along pretty quick. Nathan fought hard at first, demanding half of everything, even future shares in my family's business. His first offer back was so over the top that even his own lawyer seemed embarrassed. But his side got way weaker when my legal team showed all the proof. The weird withdrawals. The secret bank accounts we found. And the most damaging thing. Those recordings of him admitting he married me for money. In the end, he got a lot less than he wanted. Though still more than he deserved. If you ask me. The best part, for me, that was during our last meeting to sort things out. Nathan's lawyer tried to say he'd made big contributions to my career and helping out my family's business. My lawyer just played the recording of Nathan telling Nolan that being my husband was his meal ticket and calling me the money wife. The look on Nathan's face when he realized his own words had totally screwed him over? Priceless. Aside from all the legal stuff, these last few months have been a total roller coaster. Those first few weeks right after I confronted him were the absolute toughest. I went through feeling mad as hell, sad, embarrassed, and just really doubting myself. How could I have been so dumb? How did I miss all those clues? My therapist, yeah, I got a really good one, best decision ever, helped me see that Nathan's lies worked not because I was stupid or gullible, but because he was super calculating and good at messing with people. She taught me that trusting someone isn't a weakness, it's the person who breaks that trust who messed up. Not me for giving it. I moved out of our house even before it sold. Too many memories there, all messed up now, knowing Nathan was just putting on an act instead of actually loving me. I found a beautiful apartment downtown. Way smaller than our house, but it's all mine, decorated exactly how I like it. without having to think about anyone else's taste. That first night in my new place was strangely tough. I'd been so busy with all the practical stuff. Setting up the power. Changing my address on Amazon. Figuring out where to put all my random kitchen stuff, that I hadn't thought about how it would hit me emotionally. I've been finding bits of myself again that kind of vanished while I was married. Remember how Nathan used to say my laugh was too loud when we were out? Last week, I snorted, laughing at a TikTok while waiting in line at Starbucks and didn't even feel the need to say sorry. Small wins. Right? My relationship with my parents actually got stronger through everything. Dad actually apologized to me, which really surprised me. He said he was worried that having money growing up made me an easy target. And he should have taught me more about people who might see me as an opportunity instead of a person. It was the most open and honest talk we've ever had. For real. Mom has gone full mama bear. Calling me every day and sending me articles with titles like 10 signs that guy is just after your money and how to spot a gold digger. It's a little much sometimes, but I get where she's coming from. She's also already set me up on 3 blind dates. All with guys she's personally checked out to make sure they've got their own money. I've said no to all of them. I'm not even close to ready to date again, but I know she means well. My friends have been amazing. Especially Arya and Zoe, who've been there for me in ways I can never thank them enough. Ayla, sadly, took Nathan's side. They were friends before Nathan and I even met, and she believed his story. The weirdest thing has been bumping into friends we both knew who have no clue about the full story. Last week, I actually ran into Nathan's buddy Nolan. Yeah. That Nolan. The one he was on the phone with, yes, at Target. He did this awkward half wave, then suddenly got super interested in paper towels. I just smiled and kept going. Later, I saw him watching me from the parking lot as I put groceries in my car. It was pretty clear Nathan had told him some version of things that made me look like the bad guy. Whatever. I just don't have the energy to care what Nathan's friends think anymore. Last month, Nathan actually showed up at my apartment without calling first. He said he wanted to talk, to explain things. I told him he'd had 3 years to be straight with me, and I wasn't interested in whatever news story he'd come up with. He tried to give me a letter, but I wouldn't take it. He left it in my mailbox anyway, though. For a second, I thought about burning it without even opening it, but I got curious. It was a weird mix of him saying sorry and trying to explain himself. He claimed he really did grow to love me even though he started out with bad intentions, that he was sorry for what he said to Nolan, and that he missed us and the life we'd built. I read it one time, then shredded it without replying. His words don't have any hold on me anymore. Arya's cousin, who works at that fancy steakhouse downtown, told me Nathan is now dating the daughter of one of my dad's business partners. She's been warned, of course. But she's decided Nathan is misunderstood and that I must have done something to make him act that way. Some people just have to learn the hard way, I guess. I've also really gotten into cooking, something Nathan always took over when we were together. Last night, I made this awesome mushroom risotto, and it actually tasted good. That's progress. Do I still have rough days? Totally. Sometimes I wake up super mad that I spent 3 years of my life on someone who just saw me as a bank account. Sometimes I worry about ever trusting anyone in a relationship again. Sometimes I still play back conversations and moments in my head, searching for clues I should have noticed. The divorce was finalized last month, 47 days quicker than most in our county. The house sold fast. And I used my share to finally pay off some student loans I'd had for ages, and then invested what was left. Nathan tried to claim emotional pain and harm to his work reputation at our last court hearing, but those claims were thrown out almost right away. Last week, my mom sent me a Facebook screenshot of Nathan at some fancy charity event with his new girlfriend. My first feeling wasn't jealousy or anger, it was just a huge sense of relief. Relief that he's someone else's headache now. Relief that I don't have to wonder if every smile, every nice thing he says, every loving gesture is just part of some big act to get to my family's money. The money wife is gone. Long live just plain Natalie. Oh. Remember that second phone I found with the mystery contact D? Turns out D was Denise, Nathan's ex from college, who just happened to get back in touch with him 6 months after our wedding. Apparently, they'd been talking the whole time we were married, with Nathan sending her money often and promising they'd be together once the plan was finished. She sent screenshots of their chats as proof, including one where he told her our vow renewal was the last obstacle before they could go to phase 2. I wasn't even mad when I read her message, I just felt bad for her. She actually thinks she's special, that he wouldn't do to her what he did to me. I sent her back one message. Good luck. You're gonna need it. Edit. A lot of you asked if I still talk to Nathan's family. His parents actually called me to say sorry after everything came out. They had no clue what he'd done and were totally disgusted. We swap holiday cards. But that's it. Some relationships just aren't worth keeping around. Lesson. My biggest takeaway? Trusting your gut is crucial, and true betrayal lies not in giving your trust, but in someone breaking it. Nathan was a calculated gold digger, seeing me as the money wife and our entire marriage as a cold business transaction. His Oscar-worthy performance of affection and vulnerability was utterly sickening. What are your thoughts on my journey, the main situation, and Nathan's manipulative actions? Y'all?